Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt in the ReliefFactor.com studio inside a very frigid beltway. I am joined by Senator David Perdue of Georgia. Hello, Senator. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Hugh.
What is your best estimate of how long the Senate trial is going to last?
Well, my prayer is that given what we're doing, and we're totally united behind this on the Republican side, is that there will be 24 hours of presentation by the House. There'll be over 2 days. There'll be up to 24 hours of presentation by the president's team over 2 days. Then 16 hours of questions from the members of the Senate. That's no longer than 2 days. And then there'll be 4 hours apiece for the House and the president's team to sum it up. That's it. So you could be talking about 6-7 days at the best. Now, at that point, we have to vote motions about witnesses or any other information we may need, or we could have a vote to acquit or dismiss or whatever at that point.
Do you believe that will happen?
I hope it will. I think we've got the votes for it right now. I mean, there is no evidence. Look, Hugh, you've said it, but this is just an illegitimate process. I worry, and I've said this before, I wanted to just vote to dismiss now upon receipt of the articles because, frankly, the articles are illegitimate. And what we're doing is historically very dangerous because we're accepting an illegitimate result from a totally bogus sham trial over in the House.
As a result of this, Senator Perdue, and we were both on Meet the Press on Sunday. I listened to your interview with Chuck very closely. As a result of this, do you believe every future president is going to be impeached if the House is in the hands of the party opposite of his or hers?
Well, you, I, and no less than Jonathan Turley believe that. You guys, you're a constitutional expert. I mean, you guys who are constitutional lawyers see the historic danger in this. Jonathan Turley talks about the first 185 years of our existence as a representative democracy, we only had one of these. Johnson back in the 1860s. And now in 45 years, we've had 3. So what we're doing by accepting these articles, the way we're accepting them, given the illegitimate process in the House, Hugh, is that, yes, we're setting a precedent for every time you have a losing party who then has the majority in the House, will impeach the winner of a duly elected president of an election. That's what this is all about. They want to undo the 2016 election. They want to affect the 2020 presidential election, and they want to influence the majority, getting the majority in the Senate. That's what this is all about.
I asked Senator Cotton, who is an alum of the House, and I will ask you as well, how much damage has this, what I think is a sham, done to the reputation of the House in the country at large and in history?
Well, it's totally lost all relevancy because this is nothing but a political effort. It has nothing to do with the truth or protecting the republic. That's what I'm so angry about. Look, in the past, in 3 other cases, there were crimes. There was no crime here. As a matter of fact, the first day President Trump was elected, the day of his inauguration, rather, the headline of the Washington Post said, the campaign to impeach this president has already begun. And after that, we saw 2 years of Mueller, and now we've seen this year just wasted on this ridiculous investigation and these puny, in my words, articles of impeachment. And look at what happened last week, Hugh. I mean, we had a historic week. We passed the USMCA on the floor of the Senate, and we signed just a historic trade bill with China. And all we talk about up here inside the bubble is what's going to happen in impeachment. It's crazy.
Footnote 565 in the president's trial memorandum signed by Jay Sekulow and Pat Cipollone lays out the articles about Ukrainian meddling in our 2016 election, which I've always pointed to as a predicate for the president's concern about. It does not in any way make irrelevant the Russian meddling, which is real and substantial and far more, I believe, pervasive than the Ukrainian meddling. But these contemporaneous accounts of it, I think, blow the Democrats out of the water. And that's why it's in footnote 565. And I think people are going to look at it. Do you think that will be discussed in the question period of senators when they pose them of the president's team, the relevance of those contemporaneous accounts?
Well, they'll get at least one question. I've already written it down after I read it, and I heard you this morning. I mean, you've talked about the relevancy of this thing, and frankly, because of that alone, we ought to have a move for dismissal right now, in my view.
Well, I agree with that, but I know the rules don't provide for that. You have to wait until after the
That's
A
right.
and the B and the C. I want to play for you Senator Scott last night, getting to the real motive behind Senator Schumer. He said this to Martha McCallum on Fox, cut number 13.
Well, I certainly think that the witness conversation won't happen until after the 48 hours and perhaps 16 hours of questions from all 100 of us will have a chance to ask questions, and then there will be a chance for a vote. It's hard to determine what will happen in that vote. It's hard for me to tell you what I'll do in that vote. What I do realize is that the whole conversation about witnesses have nothing to do with impeaching the president. It has everything to do with removing at least 4 senators from office who are Republicans. The entire process of calling witnesses that were not heard in the House is about getting Cory Gardner to take tough votes. It's about having Susan Collins take tough votes. It's about having Tom Tillis in North Carolina take tough votes. It's about Martha McSally taking tough votes. The subplot to having witnesses before the Senate has nothing to do with illuminating the case or bringing more information to the surface. It has everything to do with putting those pivotal senators between a rock and a hard place.
All right, stop right there. Senator Perdue, do you agree with Senator Scott?
100%. We see it on the floor every day. This has nothing to do with the truth. They're not trying to protect the republic. This is all about undoing the 2016 election, affecting the 2020 presidential election, and gaining majority of the Senate. I said that earlier.
Do you believe that there is a chance that Senator Manchin, Senator Doug Jones, or any other Democrat will join with Republicans in bringing the Senate trial to a quick conclusion because of the institutional damage being done to our both the presidency, the House, and the Senate?
Well, you would certainly hope so. I mean, this is when we were sworn in last week, you could hear just a deadly silence come over the floor of the United States Senate. That's very unusual. I think we all realize this is historic, and I hope and pray that a few of these guys will rise above this nonsense and do what's right for the country. A couple of those guys have done that in the past. 1 or 2 of them voted for Kavanaugh, and a couple of them are up for re-election this time. So, I think there's some hope that we will get a few Democrats at the end of the day to vote on acquittal.
Now, Senator Perdue, this does have the Kavanaugh feel, by which I mean late hits, unsubstantiated claims, sketchy characters coming forward with completely uncorroborated accounts that Democratic House members want into the record, Lev Parnas in particular. Do you think that playbook echoes with any of your colleagues as being an illegitimate descent into a due process-less exhibition of the worst instincts of American politics?
Here's one of the worst fears I have, Hugh, is that Democrats are all about power, and the evidence of that, it started in the Kavanaugh case, that you're guilty until proven innocent if you disagree with me. And that we saw that in Kavanaugh. We saw it. We see it in this case right now. They despise this president so much. They're in denial about this economic turnaround we have going on in the United States, which is the best in U.S. history. They're in denial that what we actually believe in on the conservative side actually works. So what I'm concerned about is a historic precedent that impeachment now is not about protecting the republic. It's another tool that a party can use to unseat a duly elected president and influence our own elections here.
Now, there's a narrative in the mainstream media that Senators Romney and Collins in particular are going to vote for witnesses and for a long process. Now, I've only met Senator Collins a few times. I've had her on the air a few times. I was very impressed with her speech at Kavanaugh, but I know Governor Romney pretty well. I mean, I've known him for years, and I know he's an institutionalist. He knows the Constitution backwards and forward, and they would have done this to him if he'd been elected president. I know you can't reveal what goes on inside the caucus, but are members in the caucus making the arguments to the entire caucus that this is just bad news for the presidency over the next century, not over the next 100 days?
Well, that's what I'm most concerned about. I'm most concerned about the precedent that we're setting here for future Senates and future houses, frankly. And I think that's a very dangerous thing that we need to consider about our republic. You know, Robespierre warned about this back in the early part of the 19th century. When we talk about these democracies, representative democracies, have a problem because over time, you devolve to a one-party system, and that's what's being talked about right now. When you look at what the Democrats are really espousing in this presidential campaign, and it's being manifested here in an impeachment process during a presidential election year. It's not unprecedented, but it is absolutely unacceptable going forward. With regard to my colleagues, I think you're going to find people like Susan Collins will be very thoughtful in here. She and I might disagree about witnesses at that point, but at the end of the day, she will look at what's best for the republic, I think, long term.
I fear witnesses. I really do, because it's the executive privilege, and they did not litigate that in the House in order to bring a late hit in the Senate, and therefore I think it's dangerous. Let me close, Senator Perdue. Michael Shear is a fine reporter with the New York Times. He just tweeted out 14 minutes ago, Regarding the requirement for silence during the Senate trial, who are the senators betting will have the toughest time sitting quietly for hours? Perens hint, he golfs a lot with real Donald Trump and has rarely seen a TV camera he doesn't stop for.
Well, that's a pretty good tweet.
Yeah.
I'm more worried about potty breaks than not speaking. So we'll see how this works. But but this is serious. We shouldn't be here. Hugh, this is what I'm so upset about. That people look at this as okay, we're here, it's normal, then let's get through it. No, this is not normal. This is a terrible, terrible precedent for our democratic republic.
It is, and I want to return to where I began. What's the shortest it could be? What's the longest it could take, Senator Perdue?
Well, I think the shortest would be, you got 2 days, that's 6, plus another day for closing remarks. Then if we go into witnesses, all bets are off. Clinton's deal was 7 weeks. This could devolve into that, but because every person you bring in as a witness need to be deposed and so forth. My ruling is this, my feeling is this: we only had 3 witnesses called in the Clinton trial after phase 1, and they had already testified in the House. I am very clear that no witnesses should be called outside the scope of these 2 pitiful articles of impeachment.
Senator David Perdue, keep coming back. I appreciate it. Senator from Georgia, all my people in Atlanta and Macon, everyone else listening, got a great senator there, and he's at least coming on and talking about this. I can't find one Democrat who will do so because they're all embarrassed. They are all embarrassed by this travesty. Thank you, Senator.